You know that feeling when your phone buzzes and you just have to check it? Or when you're mindlessly scrolling through social media even when you know you've got more important things to do? We've all been there. I've been diving deep into the work of Andrew Huberman, a neuroscientist at Stanford who has shed light on this very topic. The intricate web of dopamine. Firstly, let's get real about dopamine. Huberman has extensively discussed that dopamine isn't just this magical feel-good potion your brain secretes. It's more nuanced. It's the catalyst behind your drive to seek out rewards, but it's also your worst enemy when you can't stop yourself from overindulging. But it's not just pleasure. It's the anticipation of pleasure that hooks us. Meet John, the everyman struggling with dopamine. John isn't doing so hot right now. He's procrastinating at work, can't stick to his fitness routine, and let's just say his social life is happening more on social media than in real life. According to Huberman's research, it's clear that John is at the mercy of his dopamine reward system. But guess what? John is ready for a change, and so are you. The pause that refreshes, mindfulness as a tool. Huberman is big on mindfulness, and it's not just some trendy term. It's a real practical tool. What does it mean? It means when you're about to dive into another bag of chips or go down a YouTube rabbit hole, you stop and become acutely aware of what's happening. You ask yourself, is this what I really want, or is my brain just chasing another dopamine hit? John started doing this and found that most of the time he was on autopilot, guided by dopamine. Trading up. Alternative rewards. One of the most interesting suggestions Huberman gives is the concept of alternative rewards. You don't want to kill off dopamine. That's not the point. The point is to redirect it to more constructive paths. John took this to heart. Instead of snacking, he'd go for a quick walk around the block. He started reading a book instead of mindless scrolling. Over time, his brain started to relink the dopamine hit to these healthier activities. Sweat it out. The reset button of exercise. Huberman is an advocate for physical exercise, and for good reason. Exercise does wonders for your dopamine regulation. It's like hitting the reset button on your brain's reward system. It also provides you with a fresh perspective on your problems. John took this advice seriously. He started jogging every morning, and it made a world of difference. His cravings for unhealthy rewards decreased, and he felt more in control of his life. To fast or not to fast. A balanced take on dopamine fasting. You've probably seen headlines about dopamine fasting, this radical idea of abstaining from anything and everything that could potentially bring you pleasure. No phones, no TV, no food that tickles your taste buds, nothing. It's like a detox for your brain, or at least that's what it claims to be. But what does Andrew Huberman say about this? His take is much more nuanced and grounded in actual science. Huberman points out that the idea behind dopamine fasting isn't entirely misguided, but it's somewhat exaggerated. Completely avoiding dopamine-inducing activities might give you a temporary sense of control, but it's not a long-term solution. Why? Because dopamine is essential for our survival. It's not just about pleasure. It's about motivation, focus, and emotional well-being. Cutting it off entirely is like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So what's Huberman's alternative? He suggests what he calls dopamine moderation. Instead of going cold turkey on all things pleasurable, focus on reducing and regulating them. Let's see how John, our everyman, put this into practice. John realized that his biggest dopamine culprits were social media and binge-watching TV shows, so he decided to limit them but not eliminate them. He set specific time frames for checking social media, just 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes in the evening. He restricted himself to one episode per night, not the entire season in one go. Was it easy? Absolutely not. The first few days were challenging. John felt restless, even agitated. But something remarkable happened after a week or so. He realized that he was starting to enjoy other things more. A conversation with a friend, a walk in the park. Even his work seemed more engaging. His brain was recalibrating, adjusting to a new normal where dopamine hits were earned and not freely given. Huberman's approach of dopamine moderation is about balance. It allows you to enjoy the things that make life pleasurable while not becoming a slave to them. It's about putting you back in the driver's seat so that you control your dopamine, not the other way around. The long journey ahead. Consistency is key. Huberman emphasizes that rewiring your dopamine system is not a sprint. It's a marathon. It requires consistent effort and a willingness to keep going, even when you slip up. John took months to see significant changes, but the key was that he stuck with it. Well, each time he made a conscious decision, he took back a little piece of control from his dopamine-driven urges. So the next time you find yourself about to make a decision you know you'll regret, pause for a moment. You have the tools to make a different choice, one that serves you in the long run. And that, my friends, is your guide to mastering your dopamine, courtesy of Andrew Huberman's invaluable insights.